Good morning to one and all. I am Dr. Basav Prabhu, taking you to the discussion on extension education. The module 1 will be covering the meaning of the term extension education, the definitions of extension and the scope of extension education. When we come across the term extension education for the first time, the first and the foremost thing that is going to come to our mind is the extension areas like Ravindrapuri extension or Rajajinagar extension or the electric box or extension box of an electricity wire, or with the computer age we can think of this file extension. Is it the thing that we are going to discuss throughout this concept of extension? No, definitely it is not. The word extension has its roots from the Latin word, two Latin words. Ex means out, tensio means stretch. It means stretching something out of the four walls of an institution can be termed as extension. Then there is a word which is suffixing the term extension, that is education. So then what is this education? Education means it is the process of bringing in desirable changes in the behavior of a human. In this context, we can say that extension is one of the youngest sciences with a history of about 175 years. In Indian context, even though the concept of extension existed along with the civilization of the human race, but formally it was not identified either as an extension service or extension education. Similar type of services that were available to the communities, but it was not recognized as an extension service. Now, coming to the meaning of the term extension education in different countries. I will be giving you the examples of some countries. So, let us begin with the United States of America. In United States of America, the connotation that they have given to the term extension is education. Even though we are using the phrase in case of India, that is extension education, but in USA, extension means education, means if you are going to educate the people, means it is going to serve the purpose of education as well as service. So this is what is the meaning that they are attaching to the term extension in United States. In case of United Kingdom, it is advisory work, but in case of Malaysia, it is showing the torch or showing the pathway. In case of Dutch, it is oorlichting. Oorlichting means it is showing the pathway to the people. In case of Austria, it is furthering. Furthering means taking ahead or taking forward. The Koreans understand the concept of extension as a rural guidance, but in case of France, it is vulgarization. Vulgarization means simplifying the message for the benefit of common man. The Spain has developed understanding of the term extension as capacitation. Capacitation means nothing but capacity building of the people. So when we analyze the meanings that are attached to the term extension in different countries, so all of them are means putting the responsibility of getting the benefits from the concept of extension, means the responsibility lies with the end user. So here you can have the contrast between the understanding of the term extension in different countries, what we discussed so far, and in the context of India. In Indian context, the term extension education means the transfer of technology. So this is what is the meaning that we are trying to attach. So by attaching the meaning like technology transfer, so the concept of extension is trying to have the entire responsibility. If somebody says that we have not received the technology, it means the technology is not transferred. The entire responsibility lies with the concept or the people who are dealing with the concept, not the end user. So this is what is the difference between the meaning for the term extension education in different countries compared to India. Hence, largely we can understand the meaning of the term extension education as reaching the unreached and constantly enriching the reach. So, with this understanding of the term extension education, so now we will move on to the levels of extension education. Extension operates at two different levels. So, as we have seen in case of meaning, the first part which says that is reaching the unreached. This particular job of reaching the unreached is being done by the extension service providers. We try to identify them as a field extension professionals. Then the second aspect, that is constantly enriching the reached, means those who have already are having certain options or certain prior information with them. So, though the information needs of those people will be taken care by the extension educationist, or we are trying to identify them as center extensionist. It means there are two levels of extension education, one that is field extension or the extension service, and the other one the center extension or the extension education. After understanding the concept of extension and its levels, now let us move on to the definitions of extension education. The definitions available can be largely grouped into three different categories. The first category of definitions deal with the extension service aspect. The second group of definitions deal with the extension education aspects, and the third group of definitions deal with both the combination of service as well as the educational aspects of extension. So, I will be giving one example from each category. Let us begin with the definition of extension service given by J.P. Leagans in the year 1961. He says that extension education is an applied science consisting of contents derived from research, accumulated field experiences, and relevant principles drawn from behavioral sciences, synthesized with the useful technology, developed into a body of philosophy, contents, principles, and methods focused on the problems of adult and youth. So, when we analyze this definition given by J.P. Leagans, the first and foremost thing that comes into the picture is extension education is an applied science. Rather, we can say that it is a hybrid science. Why it is hybrid? So, now let us move on to its contents. So, what are the contents of this extension education? The first one is research. So, when we say that it is research, the two important things are coming to the picture. What is that? The research, the outcomes of the research, which is providing us the technology, and it is ultimately beneficial to the end users. Then, the second outcome of the research in the context of extension, that is the extension research, the outcomes of the extension research are going to help the extension service providers with the methodological support. So, this is one component of the definition of extension service. Now, coming to the second component of this, that is the accumulated field experiences. So, those people who are involved in the field extension activities, they, apart from the educational contents and apart from the research outcomes, they have their own experiences which they are having from the field, which we try to identify that learnings of the informal education. Then, all these things are having the methodological support in the form of the relevant principles derived from the behavioral sciences. These behavioral sciences include like sociology, psychology, etc. So, we are taking some points from these sciences and we are synthesizing it with the useful technology. What is that useful technology that we are referring to? Useful technology is that technology which is technologically feasible and economically viable. And all these things are clubbed and developed into a sort of philosophy, contents, principles and methods, focusing mainly on the end users, that is adults and youth. Now, with this background,
Coming to the second group of definition, which are dealing with the educational aspects. So one such definition given by Dahama, so that I will be discussing now. He says that extension education is an educational process to provide knowledge to the rural people about improved practices in a convincing manner and to help them to take decisions within their specific local conditions. So when we look into this particular definition, the total emphasis is on providing the knowledge, and we said that it is an educational process. As we have already understood, education is the process of bringing in the desirable changes in the behavior of human beings, and here to achieve that particular thing, we are going to provide the knowledge to the rural people. The first and foremost question that I would like to ask is, can we transfer the knowledge from one person to another? If your answer is yes, you are grossly wrong, because we cannot transfer the knowledge. We can only provide the information. So now another thing comes into is, what is this information? This information is the end product of the meanings that we attach to the data. So what is this data? Data is the raw information that we collected from different sources, and we are attaching our own meaning, and that we are trying to provide to the rural people. Now it is your understanding that is going to translate this information into the knowledge. Let me give you an example. A teacher teaches in the class, and there might be around 100 students sitting in a classroom, and he is teaching you a particular concept. It is not that he is giving you the knowledge, he is giving you only the information. All of you are going to attach your own meanings to the stimulus that you are getting, and that stimulus we are trying to identify it as information, and that becomes your knowledge. After the class, if I ask the question to all the 100 students who were part of the class, all of you are going to respond in a different manner. Why? Because you have attached different meanings to that. That is why we say that we can only transfer information, not the knowledge. Why all these things are necessary? Because as the definition emphasizes on, we have to provide knowledge to the rural people for what? For taking appropriate decisions. When can I take the appropriate decision? I can take appropriate decision only when I have appropriate information with me. So that is the key element. So that is where the entire extension gamut is working. Now, coming to the definition given by National Commission on Agriculture, which emphasizes on the combination of education as well as the service aspects of extension. National Commission on Agriculture puts extension education as informal, out-of-school education and services for the members of the farm family and others directly or indirectly engaged in farm production to adopt improved practices in crop, livestock, fisheries production, management, conservation and marketing. So it is having the features of formal as well as non-formal education. So when we say that it is having the features of non-formal education is carried within the framework of formal education, but with certain flexibilities. Here, both the student as well as the teacher are going to contribute as well as are going to gain out of these processes, because the receiver is also having sufficient experiences with him. So with that, the teacher is learning and the learners are going to learn from the new information from the teacher. So this is what is the definition, which is emphasizing on both service as well as educational aspects. Now, coming to the linkages of extension education. So when we come to the linkages, so there are two types of linkages that we come across, that is forward linkage as well as the
backward linkage. The popular understanding of the concept of extension education is it is going to bridge the distance between the research institutions and the farmer. But the discipline of extension education maintains beautiful linkages with farmers as well as the research institutions. Yes, the thing that I refer to as the forward linkages, that includes the farmers, farmermen, housewives, youth, so on and so forth. In the same way, the backward linkages is with the research institutions, financial institutions, input supply agencies, various government institutions, so on and so forth. After understanding the levels and linkages of extension education, now let us move on to the next issue, that is scope of extension education. Education intends to produce desirable changes in behavior of the people. The changes in behavior obviously lead to change in the living standards of the people. And these living standards are going to change the socio-economic status of the people. An individual demands it and the nation needs it. The concept of development has many dimensions. Bringing changes in the living standards of the people is the primary focus area of extension education. Now, let us look into various issues associated with the development. Number one, that is enhancing the efficiency in production. May it be agriculture, animal husbandry, home science, etc. We are going to increase the production as well as productivity, for which system has to be efficient. The basic element of achievement of the higher production or productivity depends on the knowledge or the information input, which is key element in achieving the production. So, extension is making all possible efforts to provide information input to the people, and which is going to be translated into knowledge, and with that we can enhance efficiency in production. The second area of scope of extension education is enhancing efficiency in marketing, distribution and utilization. So, when we hear of marketing, the role of marketing and extension, so the first and foremost question comes to our mind is what type of role extension is going to play in the marketing of agricultural or allied sciences produce. There are two important aspects. Number one, organizing people into groups. Second, providing appropriate information regarding the issues associated with the marketing. So, looking into the typical nature of Indian agriculture, where about 80% of the producers are small and marginal. It is not only in case of agriculture, in other small scale industrial areas also it is going to apply. So, with their small scale produce, the basic issue is they are not able to get appropriate price in the market. So, because there are small producers and their units of production is also very small. So, because of this, they are not having any bargaining power in the market. So, if you lack bargaining power, you cannot get the appropriate price in the market. So, then there is a chain reaction, because your socio-economic status will not be changed and you cannot be said as a developed. Then, what is the way out? The way out is the issues associated with the extension are going to play the role, and they are going to organize people into the groups. So, when we look into the history of organization of people into groups, it goes back to the history of the cotton cooperatives in Maharashtra in the year 1904. So, in the year 2005, after more than about 100 years, so government brought some amendments to the Companies Act, and they facilitated the farmers for establishing the producer company. There is a common factor, or I can say that the crux of this discussion, whether it is cooperative society or the self-help group or the producer company, so all these things revolve around only one thing, that is organization of people into groups. The organization of people into groups. So, whenever the small producers have organized themselves into group, there is socio-economic change that we have witnessed in different parts of the countries. There are good number of examples. So, hence we can say that people should come together to envisage the change. Then coming to the third element, that is conservation, development and use of natural resources. So when we talk of this natural resources, so they are part and parcel of the nature. So many of natural resources are non-renewable in nature. So then what is the role of extension in conservation and development and use of these resources? Had we understood these importance of these natural resources, there would not have been any scope for extension. So then what is the way out? The way out is extension. Extension has its own methodologies of bringing people together. So there are good number of examples that we can quote, that is, may it be the operational research project, may it be the lab to land program or the watershed programs or the participatory approaches are some to quote here. The next element that we are going to discuss is management on the farm and in the home. Extension plays key role in identifying a place for everyone and putting everyone in its place. So this is what we try to identify as the management input. Everyone is in need of the information regarding how to identify the manageable elements and how to manage the resources. So that is what extension is going to deal with, that is managerial aspects. Coming to the fifth element, that is family living. So there are 5 basic institutions that the sociologists identify, in which we try to identify family as the primary basic institution, because the entire civilization of an individual starts with a family. That is how extension adopts the whole family approach in all its service as well as educational components. Coming to the youth development, the most productive phase of the life, that is youth. It needs to be nurtured properly for achieving the long-term objectives. If this particular phase of the life is productive, then the entire life of an individual is going to be productive. So that is why extension is going to nurture this particular phase, and extension has specialized programs for this thing. In one of the definitions, we have already seen the importance that extension is attaching for the youth. Now let us understand the concept of leadership. There are various types of leadership that we come across, like professional leader, religious leader, opinion leader, prominent talent leader, etc. What makes you a leader? Every individual is having a particular quality which is going to make him or her a leader. How to identify that quality that is lying within an individual? It depends on individual whether he has identified his own quality or not. Otherwise, the extension education or the concept of extension is going to help you in this regard, in identifying the quality lying within you, which ultimately is going to translate you into a leader. So this is what is the concept of leadership development that extension is working upon. Coming to the concept of community development. As per the definition of Food and Agriculture Organization, which says that community development is possible only when the people's effort are combined with the governmental efforts. When these two institutions come together, that is the people and the governmental efforts come together, then only we can see the changes or the development. If not, then there will be no development. There are good number of examples that we can see. Government is constantly putting some efforts to bring in the changes among the societies, but because of lack of participation and lack of cooperation from the people, the things are not being developed. So extension is playing the dominant role in framing the government policies, and also it is envisaging the participation of the people in development, which we try to identify it as a community development. Then coming to the next issue, that is public affairs. Public affairs deals with, yes, every individual wants to get in certain benefits from various governmental programs. The first and foremost aspect is to get the information regarding these things. Even after having the information, we might not have got the benefits out of these programs. The As per the records available as on date, there are 160 plus schemes that are in operation in agriculture and allied sciences. But how many of the people are aware of these 160 plus schemes, ongoing schemes, and how many of them are really getting the benefits out of these things? So that is where the issue of managing the public. So after understanding the scope of extension education with 9 different areas, now let us try to understand the importance of extension education. So according to Advi Reddy, he says that you cannot apply yesterday's techniques today and be in the business of tomorrow. What does it mean? It means we might have been educated professionally. Maybe that I have completed my education way back maybe 10 years or 15 years, 20 years depending on the year of completion of my graduation or post graduation. But after that, are there any efforts to update my knowledge? So that is where the role of extension comes into the picture. Even the medical sciences is having the concept of continuing medical education, wherein every doctor who has been graduated over a period of time will be given continuous education, updating the latest developments in the specialization of medical education. Similarly, in case of agriculture and allied sciences, we have the concept of extension education, wherein we are trying to update the knowledge levels of the professionals at regular interval. After understanding the importance of extension education, let us conclude the module 1 by saying the concept of extension education is responsible for translation of complex research information into the language which is understandable by a common man, because the clients of extension are, majority of them are common man, those who are not able to understand the complex research information as the outcome of the research. So that needs to be translated, and that is what extension education does. And as we have already seen, extension operates at 2 different levels, as a service and as a education. Then extension has different connotations in different countries. We have seen all those, the example of 10 countries that we have already seen. Basically, extension service is having the feature of non-formal education with some deviations with the features of the formal education. So which makes extension education more and more flexible. Because of this, the concept of non-formal education. Hence, we can say that extension plays the dominant role in development of communities in general and agriculture and allied sciences in particular. Thank you.